Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Lowe, and I'm here with Achana, Vikas, and Rajiv from Oracle for Startups. After running the hackathon, we thought it was very important to highlight where to go next. And one of the things that we've seen in previous hackathons is building your own startup. So whether you're a student, whether you're a professional, whether you already have your own startup, then this is an opportunity to actually get a better understanding about what the program does, what the program is, and how you go forward. So, Achana, you want to do a quick intro? We'll go around the table and do a bit of intro. So, Achana, over to you.
Thanks, Jason, and hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining the session. I'm Archana, and I'm the account manager for Oracle for Startups program for JPAC region, based in Pune, India. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Rajiv Matthew. I manage the Market Connect program for Oracle for Startups across JPAC. Vikas, over to you.
Thanks, Rajiv. Hi. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Vikas Raina, and I'm Senior Principal Cloud Architect with Oracle for Startups program. I work very closely with startups across the globe, helping them adopt and migrate to Oracle OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and Oracle Technologies. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. So thank you for that quick intro. Let's get into it. Achana, I was very interested in terms of the mission statement and what does that mean, and what does the program offer?
Sure, Jason. So Oracle for Startups, it's a worldwide program, and as the name says, it's kind of exclusively designed for startups. The program objective is, helping, enabling startups to kind of build their innovation and take it to the next level. At the same time, we would be also keen to co-create with startups who can complement Oracle solutions and benefit our customers. We would like to kind of, also look at their interesting solutions. And I think startups have great stories to tell. So we would definitely want to take the stories to our customers.
Fantastic. I love that. Just the things you just said. So let's get a better understanding. So what is the program, and what makes this so different from other programs that are out there?
Sure. So I think I'll just quickly talk at a little high level of what the program has to offer. So as I mentioned, this is a 2-year fully virtual programs for startups, and typically it starts with who's eligible, with what kind of startups. So we consider startups to be any company, B2B, B2C, in any industry, or it could be any technology space, as long as they've not been acquired or gone public. So we are open to all kinds of technologies, I would say. Then we do not take any equity. There's no application process. It's a year-round enrollment. You can sign up at any time of the year. In terms of cost savings, you get free cloud credits, great discounts. And then, of course, there is on-demand support and resources access via the startup portals. We have great community of mentors, ambassadors who are like industry experts who help the startups throughout their journey. And then, of course, the customer and product engagement opportunities via the Market Connect program, which we'll talk about a little more later on. So yeah, I think, and of course, the dedicated, I would say, team, which kind of can enable the startups in terms of showcasing their solutions through global marketing, events, PR, media coverage. So I would say in all, the startups can get ahead with a cloud that won't lock them in, but they get an access to an environment which has world-class cloud, access to global DC regions, and of course, access to all the expert help and customer connects.
Wow, there's so much that is offered by the program, and I love that you just mentioned it's not just about the technology. There's all the Market Connect, the mentoring, the industry mentoring, not just even the technology side. So that's really a great opportunity there. So tell me more about how do you actually get started, and what's the first steps?
Yeah, so it's kind of very easy. As I said, there's no particular time of the year. You can just, get started anytime. As you see on the slide, you go to the link and, sign into the portal, add in your company details and other contact payment information and into the portal. So the starter portal is basically a central hub, you can say, which is kind of access, to all the resources and the benefits. The startups can manage or mentor requests for, cloud support and everything through the startup portal. So once they sign up, you get a welcome email post 48 hours, and then you're kind of ready to get started using the cloud. So it's as easy as that.
Fantastic. Love it. I don't. So some of the people that have attended previous hackathons, not necessarily this one, but previous ones where they signed up for the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Trial, then this process will be very similar in terms of that sign up and then put those details in, and then from that point on, then getting access to the portal will be very, a lot of this should be very similar to what they see. So I was interested, not actually being part of the program, I was interested in what does the portal look like, and what is that user experience in terms of dealing with the mentors and connecting into that network?
Sure. So, as a next step, once, the startup has signed in, enrolled, we kind of post the sign up. The account manager to whom the account is assigned to will kind of schedule an onboarding call. So, it's basically we understand about your company, about the team, their solution, their kind of what's their goal, or target market. So we try to kind of ensure there's a smooth onboarding process for them, and they know whom to reach out to in case of any questions or support required throughout the program. And, so as you can see, the startup portal is something, which acts as a central hub for them. And it's a very easy to kind of, accessible portal.
Cool. So, and then I think the other screenshot that you got there is the Oracle Cloud itself. So getting access to the technology and actually start building your solution on Oracle Cloud.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So I think one of the things when looking at, you mentioned credits and understanding what that looks like, it'd be interesting to get your perspective of how this differs from other providers, because I know people throw lots of credits and all that kind of to different startups to get them on board, but I really want to make sure that the credits are valuable and they're actually used in a wisely fashion. So can you just walk us through what does this look like, and how do we support that cloud consumption journey for startups?
Sure. So I'll talk about the tier one kind of benefits that, it's just not the free cloud credits, but what else we bring to the program. So in terms of credits, of course, we have a very, clear, there's no locking in, as I mentioned. So once a startup kind of enrolls in, they all receive US $500 free credits when they join in, and they are able to kind of request for additional $1,000 additional credits once they begin to consume or start using the cloud credits. In addition to that, there is a 70% discount that is applicable right from day one. And of course, when they start consuming the cloud credits, there is also a pay to earn program, which is available, where you can kind of look at additional credits as you start spending on Oracle Cloud. So, it's something like similar to buy one, get two free, and there's no upper limit to that, and startups can simply choose the amount they want to use. Once that is used up, we kind of replace twice the times that amount in their accounts, so they can continue to scale on Oracle Cloud. So as I said, 70% discount right from day one. It applies to all cloud infrastructure related products and services. There is also a promotional kit that is kind of available post usage of 100 cloud credits. Migration and technical support, I'll let my colleague Vikas talk a little bit more about it. But yeah, I think we spoke a little bit about, I spoke about mentors and ambassadors. So I feel, startups have, a lot of things on their mind. It could be like they're trying to tap into different markets, or it could be just a new code or strategizing their product market fit. So in such cases, I think a mentor is, something who can help your startup level up. And this is a very unique benefit that we bring to the program. And we kind of match the startup founders with our Oracle mentors around the globe. So it's kind of a one-on-one dedicated mentorship from people. And these are all experienced industry professionals. So the startups can just request for a mentor in the startup portal, depending on their requirement. So these are, I would say, the tier one kind of benefits for all the enrolled startups to get started with.
Yeah, I think from the people that we've sort of seen with this hackathon community, that they've got some great ideas. They've built a prototype over the weekend. They've even found some team members that they could actually form as a potential business. One thing that I was really interested in this is how does this apply that if you, with other types of programs that are out there to support startups like accelerators or innovation hubs or those kind of programs, how does this program fit into those?
So I think ideations are definitely good, and I'll ask my colleagues also to kind of add on to this.
Yeah.
But I feel this program would be more beneficial where actually you've gone beyond the ideation, moving into a prototype, POC, or where you can actually build the demo, where you can leverage the environment of the cloud platform. So I think that's where it kind of just more helpful to the startups.
Yeah. Cool. So thank you, Achana, for walking this through. I think, Rajiv, one of the things I was really interested, especially that flow that Achana sort of talked about, was really about the marketing side and the connecting with customers, and it'd be good to talk about some of the successes as well. So can you talk us through what does that look like for a startup?
Sure. Just before I talk about the market connect, I could just touch upon a few of the points that Archana was talking about.
Sure.
Now, since you are already reaching out to those budding entrepreneurs who's coming up with an idea and building a frame of sorts or an alpha or a beta of sorts, and they really are inspired to take that to the market, I would want to tell them that Oracle for Startups is committed to their success, right? I mean, though the chances of success for is greater for much more matured startups, but it is also inclusive to the extent that we can have early startup also participating in our program. Mm-hmm. But then the market connect benefit could be ideally positioned for the ones who is having their they have their solution production ready, right? So that said, we are all inclusive. We are all for helping entrepreneurs to succeed in our program, and there are so many benefits that we are all looking at, to just talking about different touch points that we have to help a startup to succeed, and that is where the market connect benefits is, right? So this is a program which is considered the North Star within Oracle for Startups program. And what we are trying to do here is, how can I get my startup to succeed, largely? I have 430,000 enterprise customers worldwide. Can I give opportunities for these startups to find business there? And that becomes one of the benefits within the Market Connect benefit program, called the customer engagements or the meetings. In fact, we have also curated these corporate innovation engagements, long-term engagements with certain enterprise customers, where we are constantly introducing startups to these enterprises to help them with their digital transformation roadmaps. Large engagements where a lot of startups find great value and they find great opportunities to, build and scale their business. Apart from this, I mean, one of the typical case study, that usually comes about is, startups got a business with one of our enterprises. Now what? Now we got to talk about them, right? I mean, we got to talk about what is the solution that they deliver to the customer. What are the benefits it gave those customers? How did it really help the customer to address a problem statement or an opportunity there? And that's where our communications team comes in. So that's about blogs, social media, PR, AR, and mind you, these are very widely received, articles. I mean, it's seen by the entire ecosystem of Oracle folks, but also by our customers. And when they see these startups, these solutions coming up, and the fact that they have helped a peer, a company which is in the same domain to address a certain problem statement, they are also looking at probably talking to these startups, and that's again opportunities for these startups, right? Now, there are, these marketing and events exposure. Now, considering that JPAC alone has around 4 Oracle Cloud Worlds slated for this financial year, we are taking these startups to these Oracle Open Worlds. Selective, but we select these startups, we take them to these events, we give them a stall or a booth to, where they could network with not just the Oracle fraternity, but also to the larger, customer ecosystem that visits their stall and is able to exchange notes, exchange ideas, find opportunities. And, there's a lot of networking opportunities that comes there. And then you have the product team. We have umpteen number of conversations where startups are doing a joint GTM with the product teams. And it is probably a CX team finding a value with a startup solution, and together they are, they have a better proposition for the customer, and customer would end up, buying that solution, and that's a great value for our product team as well. And finally, you have the VC introductions. So, if a startup startup gets a customer through us, if they have a story with us, if they have a lot of exposure in terms of our events coverage at analyst events, where you have also the product team talking to them, that's a lot to handle. And now they are really set for scale. And that is where our Rolodex of VCs, venture capitalists, they could come forward and they could find opportunities to invest in these startups, right? And so if there are startups who's looking to scale, then absolutely, I mean, we could make those introductions to these VCs, and that could be a way forward. So Market Connect program, in a way, is kind of an accelerator on the dreams of these startups. It starts with an ideation, and then we are saying, how can I make you successful? And that's a messaging that this program gives, Jason.
Yeah, I can see the difference between the tier 1, tier 2, where tier 1 is definitely getting you in there, getting you mobilized with the program and your solution, where tier 2 is really more that scale into the market and finding those massive opportunities across not just the Oracle customer base, but also into Oracle itself, like the conversations that we're having with account teams, across different regions, as well as into the Oracle customers and other partners. It becomes an potentially acquisition strategy in some of these cases, especially from a VC perspective.
Yeah, so you have startups in in one part of the region, could be in Australia, being connected to a customer in the US. And considering a lot of startups in Australia is today making, or is, sees US or the North America as markets, potential markets. This is a key pathway, or this program is a key pathway for them to explore.
Yeah, and even in the upcoming weeks with the London Tech Week, a lot of Australian startups are actually heading over there to hit the UK and the Europe market as well. So plenty of opportunities there.
Absolutely.
So I was always interested in terms of that qualification. What does it mean in terms of actually getting into that level that you need to be to get access to that level of that tier 2?
I think, this is where it becomes very surprisingly little for a startup to do to get all these benefits. Because if you look at the 7-step qualification criteria, right? I mean, you just have to, apart from having to burn $500 in cloud credits, which, startups would quickly achieve that in a very short while. The rest of the things are all done in kind of, a couple of hours, right? And it just means that talk about yourself. Build a profile, give me an elevator pitch. Just let me know as to what you are. What you as founders are, what your solution is, what problems does it solve for a customer, right? If there is a case study where you have already done this for a customer, where the problem is solved, then, upload a case study. And it could be a pretty simple format so that I'm able to relate to a customer of a similar customer and say that, hey, he could have a similar problem and you have solved that for them, right? A reference architecture is primarily across what technology of Oracle has benefited you. There's a lot of technology that is enterprise class. What has actually benefited you in terms of improving your architecture? So if you could, give me a reference architecture of that. What is the integration strategy? Is there a roadmap for you to, or are you interested to integrate with an Oracle ERP or Oracle CX or the hundreds of other Oracle products out there? Let me know so that I can work out, with those respective teams and, get this integration conversation going. Elevator pitch is, anything that you could talk about your company in 2 minutes, right? Which helps you understand what your company stands for, what your solution is, that one. And then, vector logos, which could just, I could use in my decks when I reach across to account teams and customers and so on. So that's all you have to do, which ticks all the marks and gets you qualified for Market Connects. And what you see on the left-hand side is those customer engagements, the product team interactions, marketing, PR, VC introductions, and so on.
Yeah, I think from a qualification perspective, these are things that the startup should be doing anyway. So there's no case of creating more work for the sake of qualification. These are standard practices or standard things that people should have, especially where I see more from the reference architecture. I love that since we've got our Oracle Architecture Center, which has all different ways that customers and startups and other how best practice should be done, or ways customers have deployed their solutions. So I'm seeing that even as a piece of marketing material, even just that, not just a reference architecture of what best works.
Absolutely. It's so lightweight, it's easy for all those startups to do. And, as you said, we are just wanting them to adopt the best practices, whatever sets them up for success. That's all what you see in these qualification steps out here.
Yeah, and very usable artifacts that can be shared with the rest of the Oracle for Startups team. Great for even just account teams to know who the startups are, how they actually work, what products do they use. It's great to have that kind of information in there. So tell me a couple of the ones that you found as highlights in terms of going through the program. So let's talk about a couple of those.
Sure. So okay, so this is a startup called Hirio. Now, post-COVID, I would say, as soon as COVID hit, everybody went into a virtual board, and one of the challenges that people were facing is, hey, we have COVID, but we can't meet people in person. How do I scale up my resources? Because I need more people, I need more hands to cater to my customers. It could be in customer service and so on. So how do we do that? So for a lot of the ITITs BPO companies, all those became a matter of scale, and it was a challenge, right, to get people and how to interview them, how to improve the onboarding experience. And that is where we had this solution called Hyrio, the startup called Hyrio coming in. And, the Society General was having an offshore development center here in India, and it's one of the biggest, right? So they wanted to really ramp up manpower to deliver on what that extra load came in during COVID. And this is where we introduced Hyrio. So Hyrio was there, and we introduced them. And as the engagement started rolling on, we actually went in and said, we gave in a recommendation that, hey, this solution is trusted by us. This references that other customers have given about Hyrio, and I think it's a great fit. And it's a lot of trust that Oracle as an ecosystem could give for Society General. And thereafter, it went into a pan India rollout. So it was rolled out across the offshore development centers in India, and then finally now it's set up for a global rollout. Now imagine the scale that today a startup like Hyrio is working at, and that came in largely because of Oracle's steadfast support throughout the engagement. So and today Hyrio has set up an office in the US, and they are still continue to work with us, and amazing, they also are integrated with our Oracle Cloud HCM, and they have a steady joint GTM going on.
Cool. That's actually, there's a lot of really good things to unpack there. But for the sake of this session, let's great. It's a great use case there, and great startup. I love it.
Yeah.
What about this one here?
Oh, okay. So this was again a startup which they were into social media. So we have startups that come in and complement our SaaS solution stack, and this is where we find there's a lot of value, because our CX teams or our ERP teams are always looking for those the edge solution or the new generation solutions, so as to say, to complement their existing stack and add value to the customer in terms of innovation. And that is where Outgauge could come in, and they could interact along with our CX and present a joint value proposition to our customer. And mind you, we had Salesforce as a competition, and we didn't have our first customer in a particular region for banking at that point in time. And a joint proposition along with the startup for Oracle CX blew the customer away. I mean, we could submit a proposition that was much more better, if I could say that, than what the competition could offer. And we finally got the order, and the customer is pretty excited with what we could forward as a proposition to the customer. So this is another success story of a joint GTM of our application products working with these startups and bringing in something that is completely niche to our customers. That's a lot of innovation value for our customers.
Yeah, I really like the messaging and what you're talking about there in both those use cases, where it becomes a win-win scenario between for the customer, for the startup, and also for Oracle to actually work together to actually deliver something that's truly innovative.
Absolutely, and that's more the way we work increasingly these days. How can I give more value for my sales folks? How can I give more value for my customers? But on top of it all, how can I use that as a solution and give much more outreach to my startups? So it's a lot of exciting things that we are doing here at Oracle for Startups, and we have those relationship on. We still continue to have relationship for startups which have been right from the beginning, 4 years, 3 years back, right? So that's how we have been driving this, and it's all on trust and relationships that we have been driving this program, and it's so fulfilling to be working in this ecosystem.
So very cool Cool to see. So thank you, Reggie, for that kind of insight.
Absolutely.
I want to say, because you've been very quiet, so tell me more. Working in that cloud, so I feel some affinity with you in terms of I'm working in the cloud engineering team, and we've got cloud architects. So tell me more about your role and how you're engaged with these startups as part of the program. How does that work, and what are the things that you sort of get yourself into when we're helping these startups?
Sure. Thanks, Jason. Actually, that's a great question. So Oracle by nature is a technology company, and technology is in the DNA of Oracle. So almost all the teams that you would see in Oracle will have a technology component or folks from technology. Same goes for Oracle for Startups program. Oracle for Startups program has a very important pillar, which is Cloud Architects team, and I'm part of that team. We are supposed to be kind of a force multiplier for the startups. We call ourselves as friends, philosophers, and guides for the startup, and engage startups even before they sign up for this program. So if you are a startup and you are even planning to join Oracle for Startups program, what we do is we can engage with you and help you identify cloud services that can be of use to you. Or if you're already working with some other cloud service provider, we can map those services with the services that Oracle OCI provides. So that's the first step of engagement that we have with the startup. So once we have identified the services and once you have signed up for the program, you are in there, but you know, it's a new area for you. Probably most of your team doesn't know about OCI, and your engineers may end up spending a lot of time understanding what OCI is. So what we do is we can also do some kind of a session for you. We do these sessions very frequently for a larger group of startups, where we walk you through the key services of Oracle Cloud, how to spin them up, what are those services for, how you navigate through those services. Two, if you are interested in migrating your workload from a current service provider to Oracle Cloud, or if you want to set up a brand new vanilla environment on Oracle Cloud, we can help you with setting up of those services. This could be just a guidance from a distance, or this could be a hands-on participation from some of our engineers who would actually do the heavy lifting of your moving your workload from wherever you are. It could be a cloud service provider, it could be on-prem, or it could be a vanilla environment that you are trying to build on Oracle Cloud, and bring your application onto Oracle Cloud. We could work with you to make this thing happen. Now, you are moving to Oracle Cloud, you already have identified the services, and you have already moved in some development environment. Now you're planning to move your production environment, but you are concerned about the cost. How much is going to cost me to actually run my workload in Oracle Cloud? So we can do total cost of ownership analysis for you. Beforehand, we can tell you how much is going to cost you to run your services in Oracle Cloud. And obviously there is a 70% discount in there. So you know in advance how much is going to cost you and how much money you are going to save by moving to Oracle Cloud. We also do some kind of proof of concept or POC for you in case you are interested in exploring a new service that you have not explored yet, but you feel very interested in that kind of a service. For example, you want to use Oracle's, you are looking at microservices kind of an architecture, and you want to use Oracle's Kubernetes engine. We can showcase you how it works and how you can actually deploy your application onto Oracle Cloud using your microservices architecture by a simple POC. We have a team which is global. Folks are based out of different continents, and more often than not, you will find an architect or engineer in your time zone with whom you can interact in real time. So if you have any query, if you have any question, if you have any doubt, if you are stuck up somewhere with Oracle Cloud, you could drop an email, and somebody would reach out to you via email, or maybe set up a Zoom call with you and speak with you. Beyond that, we also play a role of a bridge between the product development team and the startups, which means if there is a scope for exploring the service in depth, you want to dive deep, or you want to understand that the complete nature of that service, or you also want to know what kind of challenges I would face if I'm using this service, or you're already facing some challenges, we can hook you up with the product management team, the product team, and somebody from that team will actually talk to you, help you out with the questions that probably our team may not be able to answer. So there is a complete array of services that we offer, starting from the point even when you have not signed up for this program, all the way to your 2 years journey with Oracle for Startups program.
Wow, this you got a very busy job when dealing with these startups. So because I applaud the work that you do in this space, because especially from a TCO perspective, you go through 2 years, you build your product, and sometimes if you don't consider what your TCO is, once you finish the program, is it sustainable moving forward, even without the discounts? Are you chasing the discounts, or do you have a viable business model? And it's not just about what the cloud costs, but also what is the actual revenue that you're going to gain from a customer, and does that all marry up? So it's fantastic that you do that. The other one that I really like there is also the migration and technical support, because a lot of startups, they've got their favorite tech stack, they do that, but they've also done in such a way that it's using technologies that may not help to scale. So because of that, then having that support and be able to use those proof of concepts and the migration services and the tech support to actually find what is a good fit for this startup on Oracle Cloud to really make best use of the technology and the R&D that we spent, so that they can then spend all their R&D not on the simple stuff, but on the unique stuff that makes that startup a true startup. So I love what you do there.
So one of the things that folks should know that, if you are all alone doing it on your own as a startup with a small team where people are obviously pressed for time, you may take a day or two or a week to perform a certain activity, which if you engage with our team and you speak with one of our engineers, or you take our help with migration support, or maybe generally answering of queries, you probably get that thing done probably in a couple of hours or maybe less than a day. So you save on time, and time is money.
Yeah.
So the faster you move on to your workload onto where you want to be with the services that you want to deploy, faster it would be for you to come up with your MVP or be available to your end customers. And also it helps you, Rajiv was talking about Market Connect. The faster you are on Oracle Cloud, easier it is for Rajiv to talk about you to other colleagues of his.
Yeah, fantastic. Great points. Thank you for that. And so, yeah, I wasn't sure what this really meant, but could you describe to me, is this about Oracle Cloud? Talk us through it.
Right. So FireUp, it's a great initiative that we have launched, that we did launch last year. We call it FireUp Engagement. And this is meant for startups who are a bit more mature on Oracle Cloud. Those who have been using Oracle Cloud for 3-4 months, they already have their workload, preferably production workload, deployed on Oracle Cloud. Now, so you have your setup there. You are working with your product. You are working with your application. Your product is deployed. You can engage with our teams, and our team and at least 2 senior cloud architects will work with you for 2 weeks in this engagement. Now, what will this engagement entail is, we look at your architecture from a distance. We look at it from best practices point of view. We look at it from high availability, scalability, security, audit, monitoring point of view. So we have 16 parameters on which we judge your architecture. We would look at your architecture, we'll judge your architecture, and then we come up with a report, which is a recommendation kind of a thing, which actually tells you what all you need to do to make your architecture stronger, more enterprise grade. Let's put it that way. So if you're claiming your architecture to be enterprise grade, there are few things which have to happen. You should be able to recover from disaster, for example. Do you have a plan for that? You should be able to scale up your applications very quickly. Have you planned for that? Is that implemented? You should be able to showcase that your application is secure. It cannot be hacked easily. People cannot just log into your application. You have not opened ports unnecessarily. Stuff like that. So there are 16 parameters, and within those parameters there are different layers. So it's a 2 weeks engagement, like I said. We look at your architecture, and then we help you take your architecture from where it is to the next level, which is your enterprise grade architecture.
Cool.
Key thing here is, this is a completely free engagement. You don't pay for this engagement. You just request for this engagement. We just see that you fulfill few needs, few prerequisites like time with Oracle for Startups, how much of your application, what kind of workload you're running on Oracle Cloud, and that's pretty much it. And if you fulfill that criteria, we would be happy to engage you.
Fantastic. I've loved all this goodness to make sure that your business and also the solution that you build is actually as enterprise class like our other cloud services that we even produce. So I'm glad that we're providing that same engineering back to the startups here as well.
Yes, one of the things that people kind of miss when they're doing it on your own is, following the best practices. There is a reason best practices exist. Sometimes people, because folks are in a hurry, they just want to, get their MVP out. They kind of miss out on those best practices. And once you grow, maybe a couple of years down the line, you realize that particular thing which you have not followed has become a bottleneck for you. Yeah. And then 2 years down the line, going back and fixing your architecture can be a pain. Sometimes it's not even possible. So the sooner you are able to, fix all these things, all these issues, or at least you're aware of what is coming your way, you can take your decisions accordingly. Very
cool. So I'm as part of the hackathon itself that just that just happened, and the judging's happening in a couple of days' time. We only used a small part, and the only thing that people actually used was Apex. So in the top right-hand corner, that was the only thing that people have been exposed to as part of the World Innovation Day hackathon. So not to spend too much time on this, but just can you give us a bit of an overview in terms of the whole Oracle Cloud infrastructure, what is available?
Sure. And this is the most important piece of the puzzle that you should be aware of. Is Oracle offers you complete stack, which is right from SaaS applications to PaaS to IaaS. Everything is, all the cloud capabilities available to you. There are various kinds of deployment models which are there, but I'm going to talk about the public cloud here. So Oracle, at the base of it, Oracle offers you compute and the pillars that are associated with compute infrastructure, which you would require to set up your applications. Compute would entail different kinds of VMs, virtual machines, bare metal machines, very powerful machines like GPUs. It would entail networking. It would have storage. It would have containers. All those things basic from your lowest level, which is your infrastructure here. So you will have all these resources available to you, and you can spin up these resources to deploy your application and be available to the world. Now, on top of it, you have availability of artificial intelligence or machine learning. You have availability of databases of various kinds. It could be autonomous database. It could be Oracle managed database. It could be self-managed database. There are various flavors of databases: relational database, NoSQL database, MySQL database. All kinds of databases are available. Then on top of it, you mentioned about the low-code Apex application. You have Visual Builder. You have digital assistants. Primarily, these are the tools that you would use to actually build up your application, and they would get deployed on Oracle infrastructure. Not only that, you also have governance model where we offer you identity and access management, which actually allows you to control your access, and by that you control the security part of your application. And then on top of everything, there is monitoring, analytics, observability tool, which actually help you monitor the application in real time. And in case there is any issue, or in case you are looking for any recommendation about the services that you are running, you could simply go onto the console, spin up the application, and see how your application is performing, if there is a risk, or if you need to scale up your application for whatever reasons. So end to end, you have all the services available. Compared to any other cloud service provider, you will have almost all the services available, probably a bit more. So there is a rare chance that you are currently using a service with some other cloud service provider, and that is not available in Oracle Cloud.
Yeah. This and to be honest, this is the same cloud stack that enterprise customers have, but it is the same in terms of the affordability, in terms of the ability to manage the tools. It is tuned such that startups can actually access the same technology and the same capability as well. So it's a fantastic, one of the things that probably came back into the reference architecture, notice some of the networking things that, especially when we need to talk to enterprise customers, then I'm very grateful that you've got these technical support to actually allow them to, not all startups actually understand networking or hybrid cloud or being able to connect to in a B2B sense. So, and that's probably something that I think startups sometimes forget when they do need to connect to one of these customers, like this fast connect, and also having secure network, dedicated networks where they can actually connect directly into customers and customers can talk directly to them.
Actually, you know what? So I would tie it back to the conversation we were having earlier about reference architecture. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you have reference architecture right in front of you, it's very easy to understand what exactly I am doing. It's very easy to showcase it to someone else who is not from your team to understand the bigger picture. And also, if somebody new is joining your team, they would understand where they fit into that, bigger architecture. So having a reference architecture, and you could definitely take our help in case you want to build reference architecture. Having a reference architecture is a win-win proposition for everybody in there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love this. This picture keeps growing, and this is. I've seen the January 2022, but this is a newer version. So we've opened a couple of new data centers, couple of new regions. So we are definitely across the world. But tell me more about some of these other ones in terms of what is the Azure Interconnect and how does this, what are these different regions that we've got across the world?
Okay, so if you look at this map, probably other than Antarctica, we are in all the continents. So, and this is expanding. One of the reasons, like some people have asked me, in previous engagements, why do we need so many regions? And for those who don't understand, region is, in simplistic form is data center. Although it's not exactly, one-to-one mapping, but for this conversation, let's assume that this is data center. Why do you need so many data centers or regions? Why can't you build up a gigantic kind of a data center, or maybe put all your resources on a huge cruise ship and just let it float, and you save on money, and you just have one place for all the services. The reason is we are building so many data centers. There are three reasons, two of them very important and one of them slightly less important. One is the sovereign restrictions. In a lot of countries, there is a restriction regarding data being placed out of the geographical location of the country. So if that being the case, a lot of our startups or our customers would not be able to make use of Oracle's data center and Oracle services that are being offered. For example, a customer in Europe may not be able to place personal information or financial information outside of Europe's geographical region. So that's one of the reasons we have built up all these data centers, all these regions, and we are coming up with many more. So that if in case customer cannot come to us, we go out to the customer. So it becomes, so customer is compliant all the time, compliant with the local laws. That is one primary reason. The other reason, and that's equally important, is recovery from disaster. Imagine you have just one data center or maybe a couple of data centers, or for whatever reasons, the data center is not accessible. Imagine war breaks out, or there is a comet strike. I mean, these are outlier events, or there is, because of COVID-19, your folks cannot go to the data center. That particular city is in shutdown. What do? You can't, as a customer, you can't accept that your application is down. So in case of any such eventuality, you always have the option of a secondary data center, which is outside the geographical region, or maybe in the same geographical region if there are multiple regions available, so that if one center goes down, you have the capability to bring up your application onto some other data center or in some other region. So you are not fully, there is no complete blackout for you.
Yeah.
So primarily two reasons. One is the sovereign restrictions. The other is the disaster recovery. And there is one more minor reason, which is the latency. The farther away you are from the data center, slower your application would be, latency would be higher. So it's advisable to best practice is to be as close, the data center should be as close to your customer as possible. But that's only possible if you have your data centers or your region all over the world closer to the customer, and you can pick up whichever data center or region you want to work with depending upon where your customers are.
Yeah, and going back to one of the programs that you talked about, fire up your cloud architecture, I can definitely see that resilience angle in terms of what you're talking about here. Being able to deploy your startup solution in any of these in a rapid sense, depending on your customers, depending on the availability, then becomes part of your ability to be resilient as a startup and provide your service to your customers at all times. So fantastic to have all these different regions.
And I will add one more point which would be of interest to our listeners. That would be that the cost of ownership remains the same across regions, across data center. Whether you have a data center in Sydney or in San Jose or in Tokyo or in Europe, wherever the data center of the region is, it doesn't matter. When you spin up the service, if a service costs $1 in region 1, it would cost $1 in region 2, 3, 4. It does not change. We do not charge you as per the region. The cost of ownership remains the same.
Cool. So makes it predictable, makes it easy for pricing. So, yes. So good to know. Thank you for that. So there's a lot of things that we sort of talked about from the program structures, some of the credits, some of the stories in terms of Market Connect, the actual couple of stories from existing startups, and also then going through with Vikas at the end in terms of the technical side. So appreciate you sharing all that knowledge and your wisdom and your experiences with the participants from the World Innovation Day Hackathon. Achana, I'm going to bring it back to you to do a last note. Then, where did just remind us, where did we start, and what is the first point where I think, hang on, I'm at this point, and is probably a good time to sign up?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we spoke about a lot of benefits, and in different, Vikas spoke about a lot about how it is easier to migrate your applications, critical enterprise applications, and the support they're given. So I think, as I said, we want the startups to join on our program and, avail all those benefits, see how it works for them. And as I said, we are open to all startups of any size, and they can join at any time of the year. There's no particular date or time. They just have to enroll in, through the link on the website, and, we were there to support them throughout the journey.
So when we do share this recording with the people from the hackathon within the Discord server, we'll definitely make sure that we've shared that link as well. And probably the last question I do have, and it's probably something that you did make a reference to, a fair percentage of the hackathon participants are student entrepreneurs, recent graduates, and starting out their career journeys. And how do you see this program fitting into their process or their thinking about on their startup journey?
Yeah, so I think Rajiv spoke a little bit, so I'll ask him to kind of add on to what he said earlier. Rajiv, would you like to take that question?
Yes. So, see, today when the student fraternity as such is looking at an idea, they're always perturbed by the startup costs, right? And the initial couple of years is so critical for them. And that is where, the Oracle has a great proposition in terms of the price to performance benchmarks. I mean, the kind of compute shapes and permutations that you get at a very, very attractive price points makes it something that is a great proposition for the young entrepreneurs and the student entrepreneurs for that matter. And also the fact that, throughout the 2 years, how much of it they want to use, there is no limit in terms of the cloud credits that they can use, but they get it at 70% discount. I think this is what really stands out in terms of one of the benefits of the program. Other than that, you also have these mentors, and in the beginning stages of starting an entrepreneur journey, I mean, you want to give life to that idea, and also get somebody's advice to mentor you in terms of how this product should grow in terms of roadmap, and if there is somebody who has had that experience under his belt to help them validate in terms of the roadmap, nothing like it. I mean, that's a lot of time saved, and for a student entrepreneur or a young entrepreneur in terms of building his product. So I think these two, the mentorship program especially, and the price to performance benchmarks of the Oracle for Startups program really stands out, and could be something that the student fraternity and the young entrepreneurs should really take hold of.
So you really highlighted a couple of 2 points. It's not just about the technology and cloud. It's actually the program itself is there also to help build the business. So I appreciate your time, Rajiv, Ashana, and Vikas, for sharing your wisdoms and your experiences today.
Thanks so much for having us.
So much for having us here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.